Hi guys, it's John here, and this is a review of the Bigme HiBreak e-ink phone. So when Bigme reached out to me, I was quite excited to actually get my hands on this, as this is a phone unlike any I have used in the past. So it retails at £280, which is about $360, and for that you're getting a phone with an e-ink display. So those of you who are familiar with Kindles, etc., you'll understand the premise of e-ink. E-ink is basically ink that gets put onto the screen under the display itself, and it can stay there pretty much forever without running out of battery. If you're used to the good old Kindle devices, batteries can last a good couple of weeks to over a month. So it's quite exciting to get my hands on this and see how this performs. Let's power it on and then we'll run through the specs of the device. Whilst that's powering up, we can see here you do get a little sort of warranty instruction manual, and you get a SIM eject tool, because of course this can indeed accept SIM cards. So let's have a look at the device now and we'll see what we're getting. Handily here, the screensaver I've got currently is actually showing us all the specs of the device. So you can see here we've got a 5.84 inch colour e-ink display. We're running with a MediaTek octa-core 2.3 GHz, so it's pretty powerful considering its cheap price. We do come with Android 11, so not the latest and greatest version, but more than enough for getting the latest app still. It does support 4G support, and it comes with 6 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage. We also get obviously a GPS built in, as you would in most phones, and a 3,300 mAh battery. So not the biggest battery, but this does feel reasonably light, and that makes it a lot less tiring to hold when you're reading books, for example. We do also get voice to text, document scanning, we get Bigme's GPT 4.0, which is their AI bot, and we get a slot for the TF card. So let's just have a quick look here. So you can see here, room for a micro SD, and of course a SIM card. So let's have a look around the device itself. We see we get a front-facing camera and an ambient light sensor. We do get the speaker here at the top. On the right-hand side of the phone, we do get a power key and a volume up and down rocker. On the back here, we can see the single HD camera here. This does run a 30 megapixel sensor, and we have an LED flash. We've got the Bigme logo here on the back, and we've got this sort of faux leather effect, as you will have seen on many Kindle cases, which is quite good and adds a nice bit of grip to the phone. On the left-hand side of the phone, we have our SIM and microSD slot that we saw earlier, and we also have a customizable key here, which you can set up to open apps and do other bits and pieces on the phone. On the top of the phone, we don't have anything of interest, and on the bottom, we just have our mics and our USB-C connector. So let's unlock the phone and we'll see how this performs. So this is the display, and at the moment I've actually got the backlight turned off. So the beauty of having an e-ink display is you don't actually need backlight at all. As long as you have enough light to be able to read normally, you can use an e-ink display without a backlight. Now if I pop the backlight on, you can see here we now get a much brighter picture, and this is going to be helpful if you are reading and doing things in the dark. But yeah, for normal use you can have that pretty low or even off completely, and your battery life will be much improved. I have done some battery tests, so we're going to go over that very shortly. But let's go over how it is to use the phone on a daily basis and see whether this might be for you. I have put an affiliate link in the description if you want to pick one of these up and help support the channel. But let's get on with the review now and see what we think of the HiBreak. So this is available in black and white or the colour version. This is the colour version here. And yeah, I wouldn't say the colours are popping out the screen particularly, but you can see a faint colour here of the e-ink. So this technology is pretty clever stuff. So yeah, it's quite cool to have this in the palm of your hands. Now, the refresh rate on this 720 by 1440p display is only running at a maximum of 21 FPS. So you're not going to be playing the latest and greatest games at 60 FPS or even 30 FPS for that matter. And to be honest, playing games on this is not what you're buying this for. You're buying this for reading books, consuming media, and to have a phone with a battery that lasts as long as possible. This is good for a backup phone, and it's also good for those who just want to give their eyes a bit of a rest from the reflective display of a standard phone. As you can see, this pre-installed anti-glare screen protector means it's easy to use outside, and you won't get any problems with any glare or anything, especially if you have the backlight turned off outside. You'll be able to still see the screen without any problems. Okay, here we are outside, and we can see that the display is working really nicely, even in direct sort of sunlight. Not that we've got much, you can easily see the display still, and this is with the backlight completely off, so you don't even need the backlight on when you're outside, as I've said. So yeah, really nice display here. We can see here no problem at all with mobile data outside either. I've actually had pretty decent signal on this compared to my Samsung, funny enough, and yeah, you can see here no backlight on, but working really nicely. Here it is with the backlight on outside, and again, it doesn't really make any difference when you're outside, so I'd leave it off when you go out and about. So here we see the list of pre-installed apps that come with the phone. Like I said, Android 11, so you got your standard things. You can obviously make calls, SMS, you've got your contacts, sync up with Google. This does have Google Play. And of course, you've got the camera here. So from the top to bottom, we've got our calendar clock gallery. We've got a Bigme voice to text here. So this feature allows you to get the phone to write what you're speaking to save you from actually having to type it yourself. Now you can see here, it's not the fastest in the world, but it does do the job. And if you are someone who likes to take notes or maybe get something recorded in a lecture, then you could use this feature or this built-in app to do so. I'm sure there are better apps out there in the Play Store. So next up we have the bookshelf, and this contains all the books that you can import. If you've got any PDFs and things you want to import into the app, you can do, and you can then go through and read your books as you would normally. It does also obviously come with the Kindle app built in as well. Google Play Store, as you can see, you can install pretty much all the apps you would normally be able to install from the Play Store. Just select one and install it. Now, obviously, like I said before, a maximum refresh rate of 21 frames per second is going to mean you're going to want to play games that don't involve a lot of movement. Navigation ball, this is actually this little floating ball here, and this can actually help with the screen, which I'll explain a bit later, but it will allow you to auto refresh or just refresh any ghosting that may be appearing on the screen when you are in certain apps, but we'll come to that later. But yeah, you can see here it's just a bunch of shortcuts which can obviously be customized if you want to set them to do specific things. So screensaver, this is what I have got currently as my sort of lock screen, but you can actually set obviously different images if you wish to choose something different, and you can also select a transparent one. So this will actually show you what's on the back of your screen. So if we go here and we just lock the screen, you'll see it's transparent, but we can still see what was behind the lock screen. So that was an interesting one. You can get just the default Bigme one here, but that's a bit boring. You can also choose the clock one here, so you can get a digital or analog clock, and you can get it to update the clock depending on what you think is going to be necessary for you. Now, obviously, the more you update the clock itself, the more the battery will drain. So keep it as low or as high as possible, but it is a good feature to have that clock in the screen. Of course, you can change to light or dark mode. Now, I would use light mode in this phone generally because that is using less ink and therefore saving more battery. And from the settings here, you can tell the phone whether to show or hide the lock screen notifications. So for privacy reasons, I would probably hide them. So next up is Kindle. And of course, everyone knows the Kindle app already. You can read your books in here and obviously get it to do the text to voice, and then you can have the book be read to you.
As the automotive extension of Nakayama's personality cruised through narrow streets, Nakayama and Kalinsky drank whiskey and argued the merits of karaoke.
There we are, just the Amazon app, obviously. You know what to expect with that. But it is, again, very nice to read on this screen, even with the backlight off, like I said. You can see here, you can easily still see the text on the screen and you're not getting any glare. You're not getting any problems with blue lights as you do on normal phones. So this is a really nice way to read text. I'll just pop the backlight back on just for the video, but yeah, you can have that as low as you like, and it is still very readable. So obviously calculator, we know is just your standard calculator, and we'll just run through the settings here. All the usual Android settings. You've got a sleep time here, so when the display sleeps. Again, it's not too much of a problem on these on e-ink because unless the phone is refreshing parts of the ink, it's not really using much battery. The main battery usage is going to be from your SIM card and from your Wi-Fi. So we do have a power management option here. I've got it in power save mode at the moment, and the battery I think would last a good 2 or 3 days without any problems. And of course, depending on how you use it, you could even get a bit more out of it if you weren't connected to Wi-Fi and mobile data. Here's the custom key, and again, you can use it to do multiple things here. So it's worth knowing that that is there, and don't forget it is on the left side there. We've already looked at the float ball before. Again, this is just shortcuts to various different things. Now we have got some other things on here. We've got the BigmeGPT, which is their own version of ChatGPT. So you can click on here and you can ask it various questions and it will come back and it will give you some answers. You can even get it to compose things. So submit it an idea and it will give you some sort of outline for writing an essay as an example. And you can even use it to draw pictures. So here we can see one that I created earlier. I did actually type a cat chasing a dog, but it turned out into a dog chasing a dog. So here's a good example of ghosting. Actually, whilst we're here, I can show you exactly what we mean here. So this is where parts of the e-ink is left behind when you've moved an object or an object has moved on the screen. Now to refresh that, we can actually click on the little ball and just press the refresh here, and that will clear it all off. And you can see here, that is looking a lot better. So than that, scanning documents, if you want to do OCR, you certainly can do. App management, standard app management of your phone. Lock screen just enables the lock screen itself. Then you've got your music player, you've got your web browser, which is certainly more than usable here. As you can see, nice and responsive. And if we go into Google News, for example, do some scrolling, you'll see what the experience is like. Don't forget, this is 21 frames per second, but this is e-ink being popped onto the screen as you scroll and do things. So it is still quite impressive what is going on here. Even if it looks jerky, that is still an impressive feat to actually have this e-ink displaying on the phone. Now, anytime on the phone, you can actually scroll down here and access your sort of quick settings menu. And this will allow you to do some good things when it comes to the refresh rate of the screen. So let's test out the performance and refresh of the screen. Let's use YouTube as an example to start with. Okay, so you can see here we're watching a YouTube short at the moment, and it's looking pretty good considering, again, the e-ink. You can see some ghosting every now and again as the camera moves. But what I was talking about earlier is you can select this little button here, and this will allow you to set the type of app that you're in. So each app will have its own sort of e-ink optimization. So by default, it runs at a fast refresh mode. You can see the difference here. I've obviously set the YouTube app itself to run in video mode, which makes it a lot smoother and a lot more watchable. So again, same with watching any other videos, just make sure you set in the e-ink center here to be in video mode. That just gives you the best refresh mode for the video or for the game that you're playing. Like I said, games are a bit hit or miss. It depends really on the game itself as to whether it's going to be any good. But you can see here, it's more than capable of displaying videos at a watchable speed. Speaker-wise, it doesn't get very loud, but it's certainly loud enough for just listening to in a quiet room. And it does also support picture-in-picture, so you can actually multitask if you want to, and browse the web whilst you are watching a video. So it is capable with the MediaTek chipset to multitask, and it does work pretty well, as you can see. So carrying on with the display, if we go into a comic, we'll have a look at how the comics render on this display. So you can see in the Kindle app, I've actually got the e-ink center set to comic mode whilst I'm reading this comic. And this actually sets the refresh mode to, I believe, basically static. And it just allows it to increase the quality of the images that are displayed. So if we can zoom in on a picture here, you'll see how crisp the quality is of this comic with that mode enabled. So yeah, it is really nice that you have these different modes. And like I say, the quality is actually really nice on this display if you zoom in and have a look at the images that are produced. So yeah, this is another benefit of the e-ink, that you do get these nice crisp, clear images when you're reading comics and obviously text from books. Right, so I will quickly show you the typing on this phone. It can be a bit strange to start with, but you do get used to it after a while, but it is a bit unusual when you first start typing, because when you tap a button, you see the response from this display a moment after. So it's not an instant response like you get on a normal phone. So when you type, although I missed a space there, you can see it's not updating the keyboard display because that e-ink is having to populate the key that you've touched. And it can be a bit disconcerting, I suppose, when you're using it, because you don't always know if you've typed correctly. So I guess you have to type a bit slow on this phone. So if you type slower, you make less mistakes. But of course, you can install other keyboards. This is just the standard Gboard keyboard. I actually normally use SwiftKey myself, so maybe it's just the keyboard itself. But you can see here, when you type something, you are getting a slight bit of lag. Even though it does register okay, you're getting that bit of lag for the display updating, for it to then display that the key has been pressed. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense. It's a bit strange to start with, but it does still function obviously fine at faster speeds, as long as you can get accurate as possible. So when it comes to games, stick with simple games, card games, standard block games, which aren't going to require such massive, intense refreshes of the screen. You can see here, you can just play your standard simple games without any problems. So anything that just doesn't have much movement on the screen is more than playable on this phone. But when you start moving into things moving, you know, an FPS, for example, I wouldn't recommend that at all. You're going to have some serious lag and ghosting issues with those faster games. So yeah, just stick with your basic games and you should be absolutely fine. Speaking of basic, this is probably as extreme as I would go, just with an emulator here of the Game Boy Advance. And you can see here, it is slightly ghosty, so it's not the best experience, but it does work, obviously. But it really depends on your tolerance on whether or not you are going to be able to play things like this. So here we are with a quick video test on the HiBreak just to see how it does at 1080p here. I have had to turn electronic image stabilization off because it does seem to cause a problem where it looks like there's just one pixel displayed on the screen, which is a bit odd. But yeah, overall it's fine for just basic videos, but yeah, just hopefully they'll release an update for the EIS to make it work properly. And here we are on the front-facing camera. I've still got the phone in the office at the moment because it is pouring rain outside and I don't want to get this thing wet. So yeah, it does the job. It's 5 megapixel sensor, nothing too exciting, but yeah, it will do a video call if you so needed to do so. But the quality, again, obviously for 5 megapixels isn't going to be the best in the world, but it's not the worst in the world either at that 720p. So that is my look and review of the Bigme HiBreak e-ink phone. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you've got any questions at all regarding this phone. I'll do my best to answer them where I can. I've put an affiliate link in the description, as I said earlier, which just helps support the channel if you want to pick one of these up. I've really been impressed with this personally. I've not got my old Kindle anymore, sadly. So being able to read books with an e-ink display again is going to be really beneficial to me. I hate reading off a screen at the best of times. And now that I can read off an e-ink display with absolutely no backlight at all, it's going to be a real benefit and bonus to me. As you can see, the quality is really nice. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.